Hi everyone. So I thought I would do a hopefully quick review and demo on this L'Oreal True Match, and the shade is W1 Porcelain. And so my skin tone is around between NC5 to NC10. My neck is definitely more on the NC5-ish range. My face is a little bit darker with the freckles and everything like that, but I do try to get a color that's a little bit closer to my neck. I've also been having a lot of issues with liquid products settling into my pores and whatnot. Lately, I've been trying quite a few samples, you know, like on a sample card as opposed to a sample you get made at the store, and things haven't been settling into my pores. So that gave me some hope that perhaps maybe, even though I was buying new things or getting samples at a store, maybe the product was old. So I decided to pick up this L'Oreal True Match in W1 again, which I have had in the past, but it's been probably 4 years, and give it a try. I wasn't sure that the texture was going to be something that worked on my face, but I had a $2 off coupon, so at Target that made this $6. So I thought it was definitely worth trying, and if it really didn't work, I could take it back. So a couple things to note. I first tried this using the Hourglass Veil primer underneath, and I have determined that it really does not work well for me with that primer underneath. It breaks down. I would say this does not, for me, is not remotely long wearing, and I really need to touch up after about 5 hours or so. But when I was wearing the Veil primer, it may last a little bit longer, but it would break down a really patchy way and start to look very cakey and just like it's separating or something is not good. So, but when I wear it just over my regular skincare, I don't have that problem. So I do feel like for me, I may get a little bit less wear time on this without a primer, but it doesn't break down on my face in an unattractive way. When I first apply it, it does look a little bit matte, but I've had it on now for probably 20 minutes or so, and you can see there's a little bit more of a shine coming through. This does get very kind of dewy on me after a couple hours without setting it with a powder, just because I'm still kind of experimenting. It seems like when I use powders on top of it, it has a similar issue, and I don't know that this will happen for anyone else. I will say that my skin is very particular right now, and just wearing any sort of liquid product on it or even powders is just very hit or miss. So it may last longer on your face. You may be able to wear a primer underneath it without it breaking down. It probably won't necessarily get as glowy on everyone. Right now, I feel like my skin is going through a little bit more of an oily phase in the T-zone. My cheeks are still very dry, but my T-zone is getting a little bit more oily. But I am able to blot, and it still looks really good. It doesn't look really dry, and you know, sometimes when you take away that oil, it will look a little cakey, but I feel like all throughout the day, it may just be wearing down, but it's wearing down very naturally and softly, so it doesn't look bad as it wears. My preferred method of applying it, as you'll see from the demo, is the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge, which is similar to a beauty blender, and I do use that wet, well, damp. I feel like it's quite easy to apply that way. I've been wearing this almost every day for a couple weeks now, and that's definitely my preferred method. I have used my fingers, and I again run into those issues where things are going to settle into my pores. So when in doubt, this will always work best for me with a liquid product. Okay, so just shaking up the bottle. It's pretty liquidy, and it does just have an open spout. And since I'm using a sponge to apply this, I do get a fair amount out because I figure I'm going to need a good amount because the sponge is going to soak some up. So then I just kind of dab the sponge in there and then just bounce it around to try to get it in a larger surface on the sponge, and then I just start slapping it on. So I have the most like pink in my nose and my cheeks. So those are the areas that I want a good amount of not a huge amount of coverage, but I do want coverage in those areas. I can smell my hairspray. I was trying to get all my little flyaways tamed and unsuccessful, and I used a fair amount of hairspray. I don't use hairspray very often, so. So it seems like I do take kind of a long time to do this, but I'm just a slow person when it comes to makeup. So I would say my nose is about done. Now the cheek, up into the forehead. So I think it does oxidize. It looks kind of pale when I first put it on, but then as it wears, it doesn't look really light. It doesn't oxidize a ton, but I mean, when you see that on my hand, it looks kind of white looking, but it really isn't. Not that light. And my chin, you should zoom out a little bit here. So most days I don't wear concealer because I'm kind of lazy. So this is not full coverage in any means, so it's not gonna cover up those blemishes, as you can see here. Got some in my eyebrows. And so that used up everything that was on my hand there. So the only powder I have on it today is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in Diffused Light, which is a very pale yellow, and it does have a fair amount of sheen to it. But I only used a very, very small amount of that with a fan brush, just because I'm having some issues with powders. I think is one of probably the only lighter option that I have maybe is the Laura Mercier Mineral Powder in Soft Porcelain. This is definitely much lighter than most foundations I have tried, or possibly all liquid foundations I've tried. I do have a foundation swatch video as well as a blog post. This is not in the video, but it is in the blog post, so you'll be able to see it compared to other foundations. I do feel like it's around NC10, maybe a little bit lighter, and it is a little bit on the warm side. I have not tried N1 or C1, the cool and neutral options with True Match, but to me this one looked like the lightest in the bottle, and I do have more neutral to warm tones in my skin. I have a little bit more yellow in my skin, so that is what I would prefer anyway. And since I do have a fair amount of redness in my cheeks and my nose, I'm also looking for the yellow to help kind of cancel that out. But I don't feel like it's a super yellow foundation by any means. I have ones from Laura Mercier, the Cream Smooth foundation, and whatever the lightest color is, Porcelain Ivory, something like that, and that's extremely yellow, and this is not anywhere near that yellow. So something to note, it's I think a little bit more neutral than most kind of warm toned foundations. So overall I'm really pleased with this foundation. I don't know that ideally for my kind of holy grail perfect foundation, I would like something that wears longer than this and has a little bit more of a dewy finish overall. This one, I feel like the oil breaks through and it gets a lot of sheen, but that doesn't translate on my cheeks because my cheeks are just so dry. So, you know, in here you can definitely see a little bit more of a sheen, and on my nose. But any shine on my cheeks is coming from my blush, which has a fair amount of sheen to it. So I do think that it's not perfect for me, but it's so much better than most things I've tried. The color is such a good color. I would say this is close to what I would want in a perfect color. The formula is just, I wish it was a little bit more long wearing, and I do wish it had a little bit more of a satin finish straight out of the bottle. But other than that, I'm really pleased with it. I really hope that I can actually finish this entire bottle of foundation. That would be amazing. Instead of just, you know, flitting around to all kinds of different things. I'm always trying things and I need to just kind of stick with it. So I do really think that I could make this my everyday foundation. So that's pretty exciting. So hopefully that covers just about everything you might want to know about it. Let me know if you've tried it out in the comments below, if it worked for you or if you're looking to pick it up. If you have any questions, also let me know. I would love to hear from you. So thank you so much for watching. As always, please subscribe if you are interested in seeing more videos from me. And I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.